Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, members of the media, fellow citizens of St. Lucia, watching both at home and in the diaspora. Thank you all for being here today. We are gathered at a time when too many St. Lucians and their families are struggling to make ends meet. Across the country, the cries are the same. Groceries are too expensive, utility bills are rising, and the cost of basic living is becoming unbearable. Inflation is not just a number. It is a daily burden on our mothers, our pensioners, the hard-working men and women in this country. As a member of the opposition, it is my duty to speak truth to power, to hold this government accountable, and to advocate for people who are being left behind. This morning, I will speak plainly about the real impact of inflation on our people, the government's failure to respond with urgency, and the alternative solutions we are proposing to bring relief to the nation. Because St. Lucians deserve better. They deserve leadership that listens, acts, and is people-focused. Now, this document I have in my hand, the Economic and Social Review, which is presented by the government of St. Lucia. This is where I've gathered most of the information that I'm going to speak to you about today. Everyone should get a copy and read it. It's available online on the government's website and will provide insight into what is really happening in St. Lucia today, because you can't believe what you're hearing. According to this report, and in particular Table 28, the cumulative annual average inflation rate for the period 2021 to 2024 was 12.8%. This is extremely high. Ever since 2021, St. Lucians have been crushed with the weight of inflation due to some extent by the domestic policies of this government. The health and security levy, which is indeed a very oppressive tax, and the high fuel prices imposed on the backs of the people, even at a time when international prices of the fuel have been reducing to an all-time low at $60 per barrel. The government is using the low international price of fuel to accumulate revenue, whilst you, the people in this country, are struggling to make ends meet and cannot eat properly. Usav saki a gorget, naidu saki a gorget. A gorget se le moun che bewa kou, ek yo ka tangle ou. Se sa gouvernement ka fe nou, yo ka tangle nou. Tout gorge nou ka fe nou mal. Eba nou ni pou du bout sa, ek se pou same la hodia, pou dizot sa ka fete peyi nou. In 2021, the annual inflation rate was 2.4%, which is above normal limits. In 2022, it was 6.4%. This is way above normal and almost 3 times more than the economists' prescribed acceptable rate of inflation. In 2023, the inflation rate was 4.5%, which was way above normal limits. And in 2024, a razor-thin decrease of negative 0.5% has proven inadequate. Inadequate to curtail 3 years of economic stifling caused by rising consumer prices. Whilst inflation rose by an overall 12.8% during the last 4 years, civil servants got an increase of 6%, which does not compensate for even half of the inflationary pressures breaking the backs of the people of St. Lucia. What does this say to you? What does this say to you? We are in an economic crisis. If the civil servants, who are the best paid, cannot keep up with the suffocating rising cost of living, imagine an ordinary gas attendant or someone earning a minimum monthly wage of $1,100, a step worker who gets paid $500 every 3 months, sanitation attendants, self-employed vendors. Even those vendors who are attached to the tourism industry complained that they had less than an ideal season last year. Let us look at the Consumer Price Index. For food and non-alcoholic beverages, over the 4-year period from 2021 to 2024, the statistics revealed an overall increase in the Consumer Price Index of 8.2%. Yet again, above the civil servant salary increase of 6%. When food prices go up, it is the most vulnerable in our society who are affected the most. Food affects a large percentage of the single parent's household, especially single mothers with young children. Remember, the Prime Minister indicated that the health and security levy would not affect food. Yet, we can see that the Prime Minister's predictions of the ill-conceived measure passed in the middle of an economic crisis was flawed. The tax is flawed. The government talks about removing VAT on food items, but it is not until 2026, July of 2026. And do you know what July of 2026 is? That is the date, the month election is supposed to be called. We don't know when it will be called, but this is the end of the 5-year term. So what does this say to you about this promise? This is too late for the mother-in-law born, struggling to feed her family today. People need relief now, not next year when it is politically convenient. I meet people in the various communities who lament every day about the high food prices. Just imagine a woman met me in the supermarket and picked up a piece of cheese just about maybe 3 inches. And she said to me, "Do you know that this piece of cheese used to be about $4 and now it is $13? St. Lucians, wake up and mind your business." The people in our communities are having to live from hand to mouth to buy food in the community corner shop. Bulk shopping in the supermarket is a rare thing for most persons as they purchase every day from the corner shop, either in cash or on credit. That is the harsh reality of what some persons are going through. And the cycle continues from month to month. Let's move on to housing, water, electricity, and gas. Take note. During the 4-year period from 2021 to 2024, the Consumer Price Index increased by an overall 20.7%. This is erratic. You see, electricity and gas affects production, and the operations of any business. So I can tell you the businesses in this country are feeling it. The decision by the government to sustain gas prices at the highest has impacted many essential services and affecting the most vulnerable households. Fuel and electricity prices are built into the cost of doing business, and the government policies have created an environment for economic mayhem. In 2022, could you imagine your electricity bill or rent going up by 24.1%? Because that's what it was in 2022. Who planned for that? Was there an increase in your salary? The person who felt the brunt of the increase was you. Whilst in 2023 and 2024, there was a snail's pace decrease, this has failed to impact the destruction of 2022 on the purses of the hardworking men and women in this country. The overall transportation index was also astronomically high during the last 4 years at 34.5%. This is the harsh reality of the impact of bus fares on the people in this country. Imagine a woman who's living in Miku has to take 3 buses to get to work in Cap Estate. And the bus fare for a round trip is $24 a day. This is hard, very hard, and this is the reality for some of our people in this country. The government has allowed the price of fuel to remain high at $16.50 for the most part of their tenure, even when oil prices went down to as low as $60 a barrel. Let's talk about the Consumer Price Index on health, which increased by an overall 10.1% during 2021 to 2024. So here we are, in the middle of a health crisis, where our hospitals are undersupplied, understaffed, and under-equipped. Many families would therefore have to rely on private health services to meet their needs. Not even the civil servants and their salary increases are keeping up the pace with the rising healthcare costs. Many families are choosing to buy medication, not to buy medication, or not to do important medical scans or tests, or other life-saving measures because of the rising cost of healthcare or their inability to afford it. I have witnessed many helpless families having fundraisers, yes, fundraising barbecues to help raise funds for their family members who are ill, and they have to rely on the goodwill of their friends, their families, and their neighbors. But the UWP has a plan to address the increase in the healthcare costs and to address the lack of proper healthcare in St. Lucia with the well-pronounced National Health Insurance coverage for St. Lucians up to $75,000. So when the Prime Minister tells us that the economy is doing well, I present these facts, which clearly outlines a different reality for most St. Lucians who live on a day-to-day basis. The Prime Minister would also like us to believe that the current inflation crisis is imported, but we in the United Workers' Party say to him that it is self-inflicted by a government that is clueless about the economic realities of our time, of this time. I also observe in recent times that the Prime Minister announced that his cabinet will remove the 6.5% service charge on goods and services. In addition, the removal or the intended removal of VAT on food items does not go far enough to reduce the painful increases of the general cost of living on the backs of the citizens of this country. We have not begun to feel the impact of inflation caused by the UF tariffs on imports. Many individuals in this country import a lot of goods online. The government needs to be transparent and tell us what is going to happen to the cost of imports, as a huge number of persons shop on Shein and on Amazon. The United Workers' Party therefore calls on this government to immediately come up with a comprehensive plan to address the cost of living crisis in St. Lucia. We propose that the government remove the health and security levy now to ease the burden on vulnerable families in this country. Reduce the petroleum gas at the pumps now in line with market conditions. Reduce the price of bus fares by compensating bus drivers with rebates. Implement a short-term removal of all taxes on food importation by private individuals. Increase the level of inputs to our local farmers to stimulate production on our farms. We need to ensure that we have a sustainable program for the food security in this country. My time is short. I could go on and on. But I leave you with these words to ponder, because we are facing a harsh reality in this country. And St. Lucians, if you do not wake up now, it will be too late. I thank you. And as the press briefing goes on, we will open the floor to questions, and at that point, I'll be able to answer or address any questions that you may have. Thank you.